What's going on, you guys? This is RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, bringing you a video on the Energon universe for Transformers. If you guys remember, back in October of last year, it was announced that these comics will be receiving an animated adaptation that would lean more into the grittier and mature side of things. But since it's in its early production, it'll be a while before we get any news or trailers on it. So while we wait for that, I thought it would be the perfect time to give you a general idea of what you can expect from it. So I hope you guys stay tuned because we have a lot to go over. But before we dive into today's topic, I want to ask you guys to do me the biggest favor and like this video. Yeah, I know it's a bit annoying getting this request at the very beginning of a video before you watch it in its entirety, but YouTube's algorithm encourages it. So if you rock with your boy and you know I'm going to bring you that awesome content, then smash that like button and press that hype button. But if by any chance you just so happen to be new to this channel and you feel like I wasted 10 minutes of your time that you can't get back, then feel free to retract that like and give it a dislike. Just rate the video. But yeah guys, as the Transformers live action film verse crumbles and Paramount struggles to pick up the pieces, a new hope has entered the chat. Someone who will light our darkest hour and bring the franchise back to its former glory. And that man is Robert Kirkman, one of the genius minds behind comics such as The Walking Dead and Invincible, which were both critically praised and have gone on to receive successful adaptations. And seeing as this guy not only serves as the executive producer but also the creative consultant, you would think that his shift into Hollywood writing would keep him away from his original love of writing comics. But that hasn't slowed him down one bit, because his bibliography continues to expand to this very day, and now he has access to one of the biggest franchises that desperately needs his help, which is the Transformers, particularly the comics. As you guys are aware, the license was held from 2005 to 2022 by IDW Publishing, with Kirkman swooping in to get the rights the following year, which he had been trying to do since 2021 with his company Skybound Entertainment. And instead of immediately jumping in to tell his story with the robotic beings, he decided to hand it over to another writer under the Image umbrella, that being Daniel Warren Johnson, which was the right move to make since it allowed Robert Kirkman to build things around this universe and connect them in a way that made sense. It also allowed fans to get a story that felt familiar but wasn't afraid to push it into unfamiliar and somewhat controversial territories, which Daniel Warren Johnson did brilliantly, because even though he was a fan, he wasn't necessarily a biased fan, and he didn't mind doing experimentation on certain characters and story beats. Even the more familiar concepts have been given an extra punch to make them hit harder than they ever have before, which is very hard to do in today's day and age, because what haven't we seen when it comes to the Transformers? We've seen this ongoing war, from the campy Saturday morning cartoon aspect to the more realistic one that's commonly associated with the live action movies. But you know what they always say, execution is everything, and while the war isn't a unique concept in and of itself, the way the comic tackles these serious topics like PTSD, genocide, vengeance, and loss is very impeccable, especially when it comes to the characterization of Optimus Prime. We already know that he's going to be this gentle giant that values life, is arguably the biggest key component to his character, but somehow Daniel Warren Johnson found a way to take it even further and tweaked it with new wrinkles. Just want to give a brief spoiler alert to those who have been holding out on the comics in order to see it adapted into animation, but there's this beautiful moment in issue 2 where we see Optimus admiring Earth's scenery for the first time, and he instantly falls in love with the planet and all its different life forms, only to unfortunately step on a deer while he's distracted. After realizing that he's taken a fragile life, he's instantly stricken with guilt and sadness. And I'm not sure if you guys had this same feeling if you read this before, but upon reading it for the first time, it gave off major Iron Giant vibes, where we see the Iron Giant struggle with the concept of death after finding a dead deer that had been shot by a hunter. And I'm not sure if this was done deliberately as an homage to that particular movie or if it was just all coincidence, but this perfectly set the tone for what we were about to experience with this new version of the Transformers, especially with the way that Optimus explains, despite with Wiki, that where he's from everything is metal. The ground doesn't sway when he walks. He doesn't leave marks where his feet tread. You can just feel that the writer is thinking about how we're as alien to the Transformers as they are to us. And you immediately see the duality between the good guys and bad guys, where on one side the Autobots value life, but when it comes to the Decepticons, they are the total opposite, where they see the human beings as nothing more than insects that they can stomp on at any time, even going so far as to label us as squishies, which is funny yet disturbing, but it's pretty much much on brand with some of the other things that we've seen under the Image umbrella, such as Omni-Man purposely killing hundreds of humans using his own son. While one race mourns the death of a forest creature they killed by mistake, the other murders with glee. This is something that I feel like the big wigs over at Paramount should really take notes of, how to make your villains actually feel like villains within a realistic type of setting. Show us why we root for the Autobots and highlight the ironic humanity that the alien machines from space show, because they're no different from us. Sometimes they work in tandem with one another, but other times they have their own internal conflicts that they're dealing with, such as Optimus showing so much compassion towards the humans and how it oftentimes jeopardizes the future of his own race. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a thing that we see in the movies, but something that I noticed is that the Autobots don't really push back as hard as they should when it comes to this. They just go along with it, which is weird because we're talking about literal genocide of Cybertronians, which is why we get this moment where one character who I won't name begs Optimus to choose Cybertron. But we already know that Optimus wouldn't be a hero if he chose to sacrifice someone else's home to save his own, which completely and rightfully so infuriates this character that I won't name, since they have been fighting in the trenches for millions of years while Optimus and the rest of his Autobots remain in stasis on Earth. It's like I stated earlier, these are very familiar concepts that have been heavily punctuated. There's more emphasis put on how Optimus put the future of his people in danger for humanity's sake, and it's a heavy but noble decision, and it's not without its consequences. Our red and blue Robo Jesus has to live with the fact that he might have forever doomed Cybertron and his people to extinction, and while the Transformers aren't necessarily human, they still go through the same things such as mental illness and trauma, and you see this from both factions, especially the Decepticons, who are another case study. We already know that they're very callous and ruthless, not only to humans but also themselves, because they go through these internal conflicts where certain characters don't even question for a second what they're going to do to a character that they feel is inferior or weak. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and warn you now, if you're a diehard G1er or you're a diehard fan in general, do not come into this with biased tinted glasses, because you'll inevitably be upset by what you're going to see. Like, if there's one criticism that Daniel Warren Johnson has been accused of, at least with hardcore fans, is that his writing can be very trigger happy, meaning that no character is exempt from dying, especially in the early issues. It doesn't matter if it's a big character or a lesser known character. No one is safe. Death can happen brutally and unexpectedly. If I'm going to be honest with you, some of the deaths in this comic feel like a direct response to the current state of the live action Transformers, where a certain character who I won't name has become so popular he's been saturated across all Transformers media with this one gimmick, and it's because of that fact that he's been killed off within the first issue. But at the end of the day, a war is still a war. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's a robot one or not. Death can and should happen, and the writers are very much aware of that. There are going to be times where you question your own morality, like I did when I actually rooted for the Decepticons and how they did things with their whole survival of the fittest approach, and how they didn't mind cannibalizing their own to get the edge over the Autobots. Because at the end of the day, resources are scarce and Energon is finite, and they need to do everything they can to ensure their people's survival. But anyways, I know that you guys are probably going to be asking, but what can I expect in regards to the humans? Because they're arguably the worst aspect of a lot of modern day Transformers media. They've been known to hog all of the spotlight from the characters that the shows and movies are named after, and they can be a hindrance to the Autobots when they're trying to deal with the Decepticons. But I'm happy to inform you that you don't necessarily have to worry about the humans, because they are written very well. Now, are there going to be those moments where they annoy the heck out of you? Yes. You're going to get that with a few characters, because they have their own issues going and they harbor a lot of resentment towards all of the Cybertronians, because they came to this world and they caused a lot of destruction and people have lost loved ones. But I can bet you your last sliver of Energon that some of the human characters that you started off hating, you will eventually love, because they get as much characterization as the Autobots and Decepticons do. You're also going to love how Robert Kirkman and the other writers have intertwined other properties such as G.I. Joes into the Transformers universe, where we see these different story beats interwoven into the Transformers, but they aren't fully going head to head yet. We're seeing a slow build up between the G.I. Joes and the Cybertronians, and if Paramount Pictures had any common sense, since they would take notes from these comics and try to adapt the story beats from them for their upcoming Transformers / G.I. Joe crossover that they're working on. But that's all I got for you guys. What do you think about this? Are you excited to see what the Energon universe has to offer in animated format, or are you enjoying the ride so far with the comics? Also guys, I've been thinking about covering these comics extensively through character studies as well as story arc, and I would like to know if you would be interested in seeing that. Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. But if you really enjoyed it, it would help me out tremendously if you shared it with all your friends and followers on all the different social media outlets, as well as hitting that hype button, because that really helps push my videos in the algorithm. But this has been your boy RBG, aka the Random Black Gamer, signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.